And that welcome to today's stream. Today we have a very funny setting. It's a 2 versus 3 versus 3 between Golofit, Beppa, Twider, Chris, Baruch, and Coswar, Takeda, and Javoy, I think. It's a rivers map as yesterday as well. Again, it's quite funny rivers that are quite easy to defend actually. And we have at least one team that's full French. And apparently that team hasn't got the greatest positions either, so we might see them fall first. Either them or Kolopit's team, but we will see with time. It's a 5k and 10p silent game. That's why we are probably going to see quite a few of rush tactics, I think. Which might mean that the first players are indeed going to drop fast. And that was pretty much everything to talk about for the peacetime. I haven't got my information, so I don't really know if I can talk about everybody without making it unbalanced a bit. I didn't look in the rules and didn't see if the balloon was on for everybody. Alright, so excuse me for me not talking about that the peacetime has ended and stuff is happening, but I had a call. But now I'm back, don't worry. And it appears like it's already game over for Coswar. It was quite unfortunate for him because his ally doesn't seem to really care about him, and Takeda is on the complete opposite side of the map, getting destroyed by Chris at the moment, or at least attacked by him, not destroyed. What a shame for him. In fact, Javoy is making the French King's Musketeers from the stable, and building 2 additional town halls right now, not having any fodder, and he also has a rather small amount of musketeers in my opinion. It looks small, I don't know if it's actually a legitimate production during the peacetime. However, he doesn't use formations. I think that he's a very new player, or he just doesn't know how to play France. Both might be the case actually, because both go hand in hand with the other thing. And Colorfit is engaging with the forces of Javoy, and already looking at this is going to be an absolute massacre, because Javoy does not have any fodder, he doesn't use the attack trick to make the musketeers basically shoot in melee mode, and he is losing a lot of musketeers to Color's musketeers, so that's also game over for him apparently. Although no, it wasn't him who built 2 additional town halls, it was Cossacks who was rebuilding there. And for some reason, Javoy managed to fight off Color. I don't exactly know how, probably Color got a fire rate less. Actually no, Javoy does not have any fire rate at all. So that's quite awkward actually. Losing, Colorfit loses his entire fodder and loses his entire musketeers to Javoy, who has a basically useless army at this point. Interesting. And apparently Javoy also has some idle peasants around his new built stable, which also isn't activated apparently. And he doesn't rally his peasants onto his mill or forest either. There is a lot of potential, I think. Or at least a lot of potential to improve the bad mistakes he does. Or actually, is it called remove? Let's just say to remove the bad mistakes he does, not to improve. Otherwise, people might understand this wrong. Anyway, Colorfit is already rallying the next army to fight against Javoy, and I think that this time luck isn't on the side of Javoy. I think he still hasn't got the diplomatic center to make fodder. He's still using the French King's musketeers. They aren't actually too bad in damage, but they are just too slowly produced and they shoot way too slow as well. Plus they are very expensive. They suck a lot of gold for maintenance. And for some reason, Savoy is pulling back a handful of musketeers, perhaps to fight off the dragoons of Sweden or Swida that have rallied at the wall that Coswar has built on. We are pausing. All of it has a massive lag spike for some reason. And I do think that this is a lag spike. I don't see anything moving. Malenstro, yes. France has the Chasseurs, which is a long-range musketeer unit. It's pretty bad to fight because you almost cannot beat it. It has lots of firepower, so lots of fire range, and it has a normal fire rate as well. So I think it's one of the more overpowered musketeer units in the game. If you take the fact out of eye that they don't have a bayonet. And Michael, the French King's Musketeers, they used to be pretty overpowered, but today they are pretty much a waste of time and resources, to be honest. Because they are just way too slow in firing, too expensive, and they are way too slow in building as well. If you could get a lot of them in a short time for some reason, probably because you rush the 33% cavalry production upgrade, then they might actually be useful indeed, because they can still kill a pikeman in one shot, or a musketeer. And they can pose a real threat to dragoons as well, if they are fully upgraded with power upgrades, so they are like a tank gun, without a tank. And apparently we are rehosting. I haven't really understood what's happening right now. Because Call of Duty first said no to rehost, and then they decided to kill our army, and now I don't know what's happening. Indeed, Martin's for the Swiss have the best musketeer in the game, perhaps. The the Swiss Jäger. It has the longest range in the game, and it has, I think, one of the highest firepowers. I don't know, I never played Swiss, to be honest. And apparently we're rehosting because somebody unpaused the game while it should not have been unpaused, so it killed the game. So I'll see you soon. welcome back. And I hope that this time we won't need a rehost. Anyway, we are back, the same route as before, the same teams as before, except for some minor changes in the team of Takida. Now we've got Uxbridge and Lord in there. I don't exactly know how good both of them are, but Uxbridge said in the lobby that he's almost as good as Catweasel. It's still pretty good, although I think that Catweasel used to be better once. I'm not sure. I don't know if he compares that to that time or to today, you know. But I'm interested to see how this actually turns out. I do think that Lord isn't a very good player though. I think he had the lowest wins of all in the lobby. I'm not really sure, I haven't really looked at that. And I'm pretty trash at remembering as well. However, this time, in a contrast to before, I think that we now have a both Danish team of Color and Pepper. I don't know why they both are Denmark, especially Color, because Color prefers England. And I don't really know. I don't really want to know either. Because the Danish weren't really the winners in history. Then again, who already was? Yes, Joao, the critical shot is a thing. I think that not the units will get 100% killed. I think the critical shot is like 300 damage. And some units can survive that. I don't know which, but it's a very low chance. I think it's like 1 out of 25% or so. Yes, it's true, Joao. I just explained it as well. You just need to wait. Why do I even say that? Yeah. Chance is pretty low, but if you face a big army of musketeers and dragoons, it will actually happen quite often. But then again, it's not very important because you have a lot of men as well, probably. And the battles will at this point rather be decided by pure masses instead of critical shots, so you don't really have to mind that. Critical shots are a more important thing if your armies are rather small. Like if you basically try to play a peacetime game with Hungarian musketeers, Dutch musketeers, Polish musketeers. Those things that can shoot pretty fast on their own, without any upgrades. Even works with archers, I think, but archers are rather bad at doing that. Because they are not 100% accurate like the muskets. Which is also nonsense, because the musket was the most inaccurate weapon in history, I think. Oh, my lens for shots fired. Holler wants to fight like Denmark in the Second World War. I don't know if that's going to happen. Because Denmark got killed. And Color is usually known for being not easy to kill. Which is sometimes a real pain in the bum. What do I say sometimes? It's usually always a pain in the bum if you play against Color Fit. because he just doesn't die. Even if you kill his armies, even if you kill his base, he doesn't die. He's somewhere else, where you can't see him. And the artillery depot from Colorfit and the cathedral. I think he's Russian for the 18th century to get the Danish musketeers. I doubt that he will get it before the peace ends though, otherwise it will be the fastest 18th century I've ever seen. And since Colorfit only has one barrack and lacks his beloved stables, he's going to be a very easy target to rush, considering his wall is incomplete, and a single man could just go on there and kill everything, with just staring at it. But Colorfit's got a priest, so he might try to wallow the enemy onto his side. I doubt it will work, but it's worth a shot. Michael Grybowski, wasn't it actually Deadpool who's the guy who just regenerates when you hurt him? I think Wolverine was simply he's not vulnerable to anything. Because steel bones or something like that, I'm not sure. Grand Strategos, what is KOH? And the BSAM has ended. And I bet we are going to see the first battles quite soon, since some people have already collected at their allies' base to strike at the enemy. Oh, I didn't know that, Michael. Then again, I'm not really familiar with superheroes overall, so... Grand Strategos, I would already say yes, because I think it's going to rather disadvantage you to rush for the 18th century, in my opinion, simply because you lack the capacity of building other buildings during that time that are going to make your normal army more efficient. Like for non-European nations, I would probably go with a stable. A lot of stables indeed. Just to get even just the Raiders, because they are pretty powerful in melee, they can tank quite a few bullets. It would be an advantage, yes. The only thing that I would say is efficient to rush with the 18th century is probably with Russia, because these hussars are very fast made, they are very effective, and overpowered basically. Except if you use them against cuirassiers, then they are obviously complete trash, but it's always so. Grand Strategos, I have to disagree with this one. Colorful does not have a sense of humor. But I still have to say that Colorfit's sense of humor is better than the one of the average German. Because Germans don't have humor. Always serious. Apart from me, of course. I'm the exception. And for some reason, I think Takeda has sent a ton of his peasants to his ally, but there is no reason for it. And now Colomfit has these stables, and he's going for the Hussars. I thought he would go for the 18th barracks, because these Danish musketeers are one of the best musketeers in the game. With bayonet, of course. I'm talking of the 18th musketeer, not of the special skirmisher type units, like, for example, the Seiki or Chasseurs, because they are better. Simply because of their fire rate, not fire rate, fire range. The fire rate of them is pretty normal, but their fire range, that's something else, because they have a range that can rival artillery in some way. Not fully, of course. But if you want to fight them, you're going to take quite some heavy casualties while just moving on them. Because they are just simply outranging you. Oh, Bloater, I cannot force jokes. They need to happen on their own. I need to have a preset. Someone has to give me something that I can joke about. And that can only happen naturally. If you would give me something to joke about now, I couldn't joke about it. And apparently Call of Duty is building a shipyard, which I am actually confused about because fisher boats do actually like the game. And apparently Call of Duty is just doing this for making a ferry. For no apparent reason in my opinion, because you can simply use the strait to Pepper. It's probably because he can use the ferry to get some hussars into the base of Lord to raid him or something like that. And you wouldn't really notice, I think, because I think people don't really pay a lot of attention to ferries and other ships. If it isn't fighting ships, of course. Because in this case, everybody pays attention. Oh, Loda. I would love to joke about Poles now, but I can't. Then again, it's probably because you stole my joke ability. Because you're Polish, you always steal. See? I can make jokes. And I can smack my hand on my table, ouch. And we have the battles incoming. I already missed some, I guess, but this appears like it's a mess actually. I think it's Coswar against Takeda's team. And it appears like it's only Coswar at this point because Ruik is way too slow. And where's even his other ally? Oh, Chris is even further away. So I think this is not going to go well for Coswar at all. Because Ruik is using his army bad. He is using his fodder way in front of his musketeers. His musketeers are walking in. Then again, you cannot blame him. Ruik is a pretty new player as far as I know. But now his dragoons are coming. His fodder is long dead. His army is pretty inefficient now. He's got some dragoons. He may be able to kill the fodder of Takeda, but nothing more. If even, I mean. Meanwhile, Uxbridge is pushing further into the base of Coswar. I think that he will fail rather soon. Actually, he won't, because he's got a bunch of pikemen. And the fodder of Lord is also engaged in melee combat, so I think that it's pretty much over for Coswar at this point. Actually, it's pretty intense right now. because Coswar was actually managing to fight off the further units of Uxbridge or Uxbridge. I don't know how it's really spelled, and I don't really mind. And Coswar won. I didn't expect that, to be honest. The pikes of Uxbridge were pretty inefficiently used. Most of them just ran beneath the musketeers of Coswar. They didn't really engage them, they just ran behind them. Or around, better said. Gran Strategos, that's quite possible because I think a lot of Germans actually emigrated to America somewhere before or during the period of time. And yes, in the Second Sino-Japanese War there was also German involvement because the Germans sent some elite soldiers to China. And also some equipment. They had Karabiner 98, a very elite force. They had all modern equipment. They held Nanking, but they didn't win. They didn't win, I mean. And apparently Chris is objecting to his positions of the allies, stating that his best ally is in the top corner and the middle was useless. Pretty rude because Rurik is a new player. And Chris got basically gangbanged in this game because he's got pretty much sandwiched by Tekida's team and Kolopit's team. What a rude play. That also means though that the team of Takeda is pretty much forced to fight not Coswar. Actually they could fight Coswar of course, but they are pretty much forced to fight Kolopit and Beppa now. That might be interesting. I mean, if they are not going to have an hour-long standoff, which I doubt they would. It looks like Rurik is slowly rebuilding it though, and I think that's good for him. He doesn't deserve to die this early, in my opinion. Joao, I think that Japan did not make the Third Reich lose the war. It's I think that the Third Reich fucked itself by invading the Soviet Union in winter. Of course, Japan might have played a role in putting a heavier bulk on the west front there with the USA, but I doubt that this was actually the nail in the coffin because the west front actually held pretty well, with just having around 20% of the current Wehrmacht that was still left in there. The Soviet front had 80%, and they rapidly collapsed. So I think that the Allies, Great Britain, United States, Canada, everybody actually performed pretty shitty in that regard. So no, I think that Japan did not make the Third Reich lose the war. Even though Japan was not really helpful like Italy either. They were both pretty trash, pretty useless in that war, because Japan was constantly busy fighting China. And they failed at that. So yeah, can't expect everything. And it appears like even Chris is coming back to life now in the base of Coswar. That's good for him. That means that their team can prevail for a little bit longer and maybe put a little bit of a strike force or distraction force in the later game. However, I do openly doubt the effectiveness of Uxbridge in these times of game because he's still making pikemen. Of course, it's a good addition to have more fodder, but he isn't even at the front and he doesn't help them out. Therefore, he's pretty useless like this. He should make musketeers in my opinion at this time. Pikemen are only good in the early game if you want to make military actions alone. At least in this mode. Because the pikemen are rather trash at fighting against tons of musketeers in the late game. Except if you use the bunches of 18th pikemen. Then you can actually outspam the enemy. And it feels like we have some stand-up action in the base of Colorfit. Having a stand-up and the army of Takeda is flooding into his base. Or his peninsula better said. With probably Lord following soon. But Uxbridge is still not making anything. Is he even still there? I don't see any movements from him. I don't see any changes of his base either. Still building that 18th barracks? I don't know if he's actually still there. He might crash, I don't know. We'll see. If he moves, then he is still there. Actually, he is still there. He just replenished his cornfields at the mill. So I don't know what he's waiting for. Of course, Coswar's team could punch an easy strike into his base. Actually, they could even do that now, because Uxbridge's army is already pretty obsolete and useless in that regard. A very low amount of 18th musketeers. Just a few dragoons and the rest is tons of fodder. Which Coswar could easily deflect with his Hachstut musketeer. Actually, I don't know if Coswar is still there. Yeah, yes he is. He just didn't build any units because he was housed, I suppose. And a big battle in Call of its base. It appears like, yeah, Takeda's team with Lord push into Call of its base with their army, of course. And I think that Call of it is actually staying ground? No, he isn't. Otherwise there would have been a massacre by now. However, Call of Duty is going to win because the fodder of Takeda's team was destroyed. And he's got the Hussars rampaging around in their lines. Plus the army of Call of Duty and Beppa is way larger than the forces of Takeda's team. And Uxbridge is still not moving. To be honest, I think it was... I really gotta say honest, I think it was just some kind of look at me, I'm good, when he said I'm almost as good as Catweasel. Not that he's really good. I don't say that he's bad, but he isn't that good, I suppose. Apparently it was just a joke. Because they are in the same clan. Well, I cannot see if everything is a joke or not. because I'm not very good at predicting. Strategos, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor simply because they wanted to own all of the Pacific Islands, not just the big one. That's why they tried to conquer Hawaii. And the mistake was not that Berlin was so close. They could have hardly moved it away from the front line. But yes, it was very bad because yes, indeed, Hitler didn't listen to his generals. If he would have just let them do their thing, it's arguable what would have happened next if they would have probably turned the war around again, or if they would have won it all. One could discuss a lot about this, but since it didn't happen historically, it's hard to say. And apparently the next battle is already going on. Now Colavit and Beppa are pushing into Takeda's team, with Coswar supporting them, with attacking Bridge. Who actually sent a delegation of his army, even though it's just his mercenary round, just to help out Takeda and Lord, whilst his pikemen are getting absolutely destroyed by Coswar's team. As I said, he should have changed to Musketeers a long time ago. 10 minutes ago, when the game times, if the game time's now already at 34 minutes, we should have changed it to 24, 25 minutes in my opinion. At latest, I mean. Because the pikes are losing in effectiveness rapidly the more the game progresses. Especially the 17 spikes. The 18 spikes are useful a bit longer because they are just way faster in production. And thus they can tank more bullets even though they have no armor, simply because they are more. And Lord is pretty much done at this point because Colafit's got some archers ready and Deppa's got some grenadiers in the back. And Lord does not have any building upgrades, and Colafit now even has grenadiers, real grenadiers from the barracks. Am I the only one who thinks that the Danish 18th Musketeers and Grenadiers are actually wearing some kind of raincoat? Is it so rainy in Denmark? I doubt that it's rainy in Denmark. It's rather cold, I think. Tubak, I don't think that passion makes professional, and I don't know who you mean that he made himself pro because he has passion. I think that passion doesn't make you a pro, or professional at all. It's training, I think, because if passion makes a pro, then I would be a very big pro, because I have passion playing in Scotland. I like my tactics, I like doing them. At least that's what I consider passion. Liking what you are doing. Or doing what you like, to say it so. So you know I disagree. Passion doesn't make a pro. And Gwen Tigers, about what game are you talking about? A lot of pathfinding issues make canyons bad in a game because the AI just tends to hook a wall. The best game I know, for example, is Age of Empires 1. There the people constantly hug a wall because they cannot really see a way there. It's quite annoying. That's why I stopped playing it. apparently Beppa is going to engage with the army of Ruik, who is keeping the back guard, whilst Coswar and Chris are engaging with Uxbridge. That's quite rude actually, because the team of Coswar has actually helped the team of Kolofit and Beppa. Yeah, a lot of mighty generals have underestimated Winter in their battle plan strategos, especially if they had planned to attack Russia, which in this only Genghis Khan actually succeeded. Of course, I think Mongolia is actually pretty cold. It's steppes, but I think it's actually pretty cold in winter. Because, well, it's so close to everything that's really cold, Siberia. So yeah, the men in Mongolia were pretty used to the cold, the horses were as well. I don't think it was because Genghis used home horsemen the entire time. Because because the Germans used their trucks as well. Napoleon didn't, of course. I think it was rather because the Mongols were used to cold. So Lord Space has been dealt with, so does Uxbridge Space, and Takeda pretty much as well. So at this point we only have a big standoff between the remnants of Team Coswar and Colorfit and Pepper. Sergey Simon, if the people want to talk about something, they can talk about it. If they don't start talking about it in a different language, I don't know if I'm supposed to intervene. If they talk about what they want to talk about. And Michael Gilibowski, I don't think that 90% of the comments are coming from you. And Michael Gilibowski, I don't think that 90% of the comments. I think the battles are going to start off soon because there's a massive reinforcement coming in from Beppa and Colorfit. Yeah, Mikey, that's what I talked about. Not 90% of the World War II comments are coming from you. Of the non-World War II comments. I think that other people are also not talking about it. And the battle has, well, it was rather quick, I guess. I unfortunately missed it because I looked at Takeda the whole time. And this is already pretty much concluding the game because I doubt that Takeda is going to pull it anyhow off, since he just left the game as well. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up the game for now. But I think there's going to be a next game, because this game was rather short in my opinion. So I'll see you in the next game. And there we are again. And we paused already. That was and Call of Duty from AFK. At least if I think so. Oh, and Call of Duty is in the stream tab, of course. Sis, Color. How could you? Anyway, we seem to have one big river map now. Make it interesting since there's only two ways to pass it. And I do bet that the battleships are off again, since last time we played on a map like this with battleships, Call of Duty crashed. Because there was just so many ships of the line protecting these straits. Anyway, it's going to be even more interesting since the teams are not 4 versus 4, and there's 4 people on each side of the river. And that poor Chris. Cut off from the rest of his team again. I feel pity for him. It would be a more interesting battle if Call of Duty would have actually been cut off from Beppa. Because then there would actually be a balance of power in my opinion. Since both Call and Beppa seem pretty overpowered together. Compared to everybody else, of course. Because everybody else just seems to be too focused on beating each other up instead of Call and Beppa. Ganostrategos, I would agree that light infantry is outdated at 20 minutes. I would already say that they are outdated with 10 minutes in my opinion, because the armor of the pikemen is just going to be better at this point. I haven't really played pikes in a while. In fact, I don't think I have. Actually, I did play pikes once. A long time ago though. I don't know if they have gotten any buffs or debuffs, but back then they used to dominate infantrymen. In any peacetime, of course, I mean. Because the infantrymen back then had a shitty attack. Or and defense, of course. Today, yes, I'd say that the infantrymen are outdated after 10 minutes, simply because of the armor and attack of the pikemen. It's just going to be too much for them. They are not going to be anything else but fodder, and then for that you could also use the round shields which have some additional armor and health. So you have a more effective kind of fodder. And of course, the infantrymen lose it completely when the cuirasses are coming into play. But they have already lost it when the cuirass has not even been invented, in my opinion. It depends on your kind of play though. If you are rather slow at producing or making upgrades, or not playing pikemen at all, perhaps, then you might actually be successful with infantrymen because musketeers are not pikemen. They have some advantages and disadvantages. Then in this case, infantrymen might actually be not obsolete after 10 minutes. And Colorful is going for the costly pikemen. These are actually one of the few pikemen that I would say that are not completely useless after a short time, because they have more armor, they have more attack, and they have even more health. Of course they are going to be useless sometime, but not instantly, like the other pikemen when the musketeers are starting to build up some power. Because the costlies, because they have more health and more armor, of course, they can tank a few more bullets, which means that they are not completely senseless when the musketeers have some power upgrades, and the fire rates, of course. They are only going to be performing a little bit worse when the musketeers are fresh, having started to have their full upgrades. If the game is late though, you need a lot of skill to pull anything off with them. I like Gatwi's the last game, it was an FFA, but he did pretty well with them. And he did not make the Spanish musketeers. Looking like this is looking now, I think that Team Exodia is going to have a very bad time on this battle. Considering that their third ally is on the complete other side of the river without a strait. Perhaps going to get murdered as well. And Exodia and Lord are about to be getting murdered by Collar and Beppa as well. So I think that we are going to have quite early casualties. Because they cannot escape really. There's a river on the map, they cannot cross it, as it's walled off in some points. And therefore there is no escape, because if they would have a chance to escape, they would have had to go through Beppa. And Beppa is not really the guy who would let anyone pass through. However, Lord's got some of his musketeers shooting in the side of all of its infantrymen, not looking like he's got any fire rate upgrades, and he doesn't in fact. So that's even more bad. Because that's a very small amount of musketeers either. Or I have taken heavy casualties. It might be both actually. I'm not really sure, I haven't looked at him in the peacetime. However, there goes Collar burning down the base of Exodia now. And Chris is biting the dust as well now. With Team Coswar pushing forward onto his lines. Apparently Chris at the moment stand grounding some of Coswar's men. Now right, it's Takida's men. He's staying grounded some of Takida's men. What a foolish mistake of Takida just to destroy one gold mine. Then again, he could not have known that this was staying ground. After all this formation looks like it was freshly moved there, not staying grounded yet. Apparently, for the moment, Lord has somehow managed to push away Beppa. It was only his fodder though, and now he is coming back for more. Now Lord is performing a little bit better though, even though he still doesn't have a fire rate. Perhaps due to these mercenary dragoons, even though that was just a small amount. He at least killed Beppa's fodder. And escaped with the rest of his men. And now he's charging in from the side. And Colorful is charging in from the side as well. That's flankception for you. So now we basically have two powers flexing each other's power over the river. And there's a little island in the middle of the river, and Colorful is already saying that he's going to colonize it. Perhaps he should call it New England or something like that. or Newfoundland. That's even better. Because this land is really newfound, I think. At least for the players in this game. I've seen it longer, I don't think that the balloon's actually active. Oh yes, Grand Strategos, the advisor is very bad. They're very poorly programmed indeed. It just takes men out of your formation and puts them to guard stuff even though they are still in the formation, and because they guard it, they don't move with the formation anymore, they're souls in the formation. Very bad, because that takes a lot of firepower. Because they don't prioritize people that are out of formation. Original Call of Duty is from England. Basically the empire of tea. Tea and fish. And horrible cuisine. Or cuisine? I don't know how it's actually spelled. Cuisine apparently. Okay. In German we have a simpler word for that. If one would translate it one-to-one into English, it would be simply English kitchen. English kitchen, yeah. Pretty simple, but it works. That one's good, Michael. The Exodus. Everybody should enjoy some great jokes one at a time. And apparently Wepper is already going for some of the 18th barracks for Hungary. Means that he's going for the safety musketeers. And actually there's only one France in the team, and it's Takeda. So it might actually be equalizing this, though there's also a pressure at Captain Marlborough. Though I don't know how good Captain Marlborough actually is. I only know that Takeda and Coswar are actually pretty good. And the next battle is already starting. It's of course a massacre for Chris because he doesn't have any reinforcements. It's a 3 versus 1. So yeah, that's press F to pay respect for Chris, I suppose. And Lord is actually still alive. Good Lord. If he holds out just a little bit longer and... Oh! That's surprising. Lord is actually the one who survived the longest. Even though he was probably the worst player on his team. At least he made 1 fire rate right now. Or at least a few minutes ago. Yeah, Mike, Chris does not seem to have too much luck with the positions in this game. I think he was isolated for the 2nd time now, today. I'm not really sure, as I said, I'm pretty bad at remembering anything. Even if it's just a few minutes ago, so can't really rely on me remembering anything. At least we can give Lord the award for surviving the longest on Team Doomed. What a hero. And apparently Pepper is already preparing to flank around and take out Captain Marlborough from the butt. That's a quite smart tactic because he hasn't got a wall there. I guess he didn't really expect a push from this side. And Colorfit still hasn't colonized Newfoundland. I'm disappointed. I suppose this is going to, well, be a massive standoff now, because I doubt that the team of Color and Pepper are just going to blow through Team Coswar, like previous game, where they both were Denmark and had super good 18th Musketeers. In this case, of course, they still have pretty good 18th Musketeers with Pepper's Seki, but Colorfit doesn't. He has a normal 18th century. And he's still mixing the costly pikeman, so he doesn't have any firepower right now, but he has a lot of fodder. Means that he can't support Beppa if Beppa gets to make a few more 18th barracks to get more Seki to destroy the enemy with long range musketeers that have a lot of power. And apparently Beppa's raid on, or better said bum rush on Marlborough has not have been noticed. They don't even send any detachments right there. Actually now they are. But it's far too late in my opinion. I don't think that Captain Marlborough is really going to recover from this one. His peasants are dying and his town halls are down. And for some reason Beppa is targeting the academy for next. I don't really know why. He could have also chosen to attack the gold mine or the smithy. Is there anything special to an academy? I mean, of course, you can recruit in the diplomatic center and in the barracks the officers, but they are not as crucial as the gold mine or the smithy. Because without a smithy, you cannot produce anything at barrack units or something like that. Only 18 spikes. And only 18 spikes are not really going to perform too well. You need something else as well. However, now Pepper's rate is being deflected. Grand Strategos, I think that it's not really necessary to build a fort on the coast, like a real big fortification, because first off, I think that artillery is off. There's no towers, and second off, battleships are always disabled in Call of Duty games, at least for a time now. I don't think that they are going to be very allowed soon, so I doubt that a fortification would help right now to deflect ships. Of course, it would help to at least buffer off the enemy forces from just marching into you and destroying you. On the long term though, it's not going to help a lot. The most use it will probably have with small fights or big fights. In the medium fights, I would say it's not really helpful. Anyway, now apparently Beppa and some of Colorfit's costly pikemen are charging over the island to attack again, and yet there has been no wall built. So I suppose that the team of Coswar is not really thinking about their defenses properly. They've got their northern wall smacked into, so that's open as well. I think they don't even notice that. But apparently don't have any eyes on the front with the island. That's a disadvantage for them. However, they have the army to deflect and attack from there, so that's not really too big of a disadvantage now. Mega Electron Volt. Yeah, sometimes people can just bypass fortifications. And I think that they will do it as well, yes. However, I think that the coastal fort cannot be easily bypassed simply because it has a set wall. And this wall is called water. Of course, you could always make a ferry to go around it, but that would take a lot of time. And landing with a ferry is very dangerous since your men come out of it one at a time, which makes you extremely vulnerable to any kind of defense. Even if it's just a handful of musketeers that's waiting on the coast, it's going to hurt you a lot. And if there's a big army of people on the coast, you're not going to do very well. Anyway, now it feels like Team Coswar is charging across the strait, where Colorfit has built fortifications, a wall basically, a 4-layered wall to attack. Colorfit is prepared. The enemy has even got some friendly fire with their grenadiers, I think. A lot, I think, even because some grenades hit in the middle of their fodder. I'm curious how this battle will turn out, since Colorfit hasn't really got a lot of musketeers right here. Even though Beppa's light cavalrymen are coming in, which is the Hungarian version of the Dragoon. It has a little bit less health and less attack, I think, but I think it's also faster made, I'm not sure. Anyway, the wall has been breached, and the people are very undisciplined about their moves. And it's a massive slaughter. Some hussars have tried to push through, got stuck on some of the light cavalrymen that are probably just on my screen there, probably rather on Color's army, got murdered. And now there's a massive flood of people going through the wall. And Color does not have the army to sustain a defensive attack, so Vampire needs to come around ASAP. Otherwise Color is not going to survive very long. And the little island has been colonized with a housing. Wow. Not even in the middle of a storehouse. So this poor peasant is probably going to die soon. And yes, indeed, Colorfit cannot sustain the defense of his own base at this point. The enemy is just too numerical advanced, and he's simply getting rolled over like a car. Now he's burning down some houses, but there's a ton of hussars coming in. And Beppa's army is not moving. A detachment is moving, but they will probably need everything. Beppa could just simply fall back behind this gate that's blocking the strait and defend from there, because in this state he isn't really trying to defend. His army will come way too late anyway, so he could as well just bring everything he has to at least try to save a tiny bit of Colorfit. Colorfit's got a lot of mines though, so he can probably just rebuild whenever he wants. Problem is though, if Colorfit dies too fast now, Beppa dies as well, because the army that's there It's larger than Beppa's garrison force. It's probably even larger than Beppa's detachment that's coming in. I'm not sure, I'm not up to count these people now. Now Coswar's team is very undisciplined, charging into Beppa's side, which is going to make them die because they are just all over the place. And soldiers that are all over the place tend to be rather bad at fighting. However, there's a lot of yellow hussars coming in, so I think that they will do the job alone as well. Because these hussars, they are not the strongest hussars, they are weak, they are Prussian hussars, but they have far more numbers. So their weakness of defense, attack, health, whatever, is pretty much nullified by their numbers. And they are also pretty good due to this fact against musketeers that have no bayonet. They could potentially die to peasants though if the peasants cannot blow up fast enough. And it appears like Pepper is not going to fight back with his peasants, so that's pretty much freebie for him. The army of... actually that's just a bunch of dragoons from Coswar trying to push through that gate. On my screen the most are just going through the gate. And it's closed, so yeah, Cossacks is not glitchy at all. It has 0 glitches, it's the perfect game, everything fixed, no problem. And Pepper is preparing for the last stand, it appears like. Because there's still some hussars left of Captain Marlborough that could quickly go everywhere. Colorfit cannot rebuild without dying. And due to Pepper having a rather small army compared to the others, compared to Team Coswar, he's not going to survive as well. He might be able to push them out for now. I'm not sure because that's mostly just dragoons there. They are pretty strong, but at the moment Pepper has the numerical advantage over them. At least if he would be a little bit more disciplined and not go get his fodder way in front of his musketeers. I think he isn't noticing it. And now the battle has begun, but because his fodder got wasted pretty much, I think that Pepper is going to lose his engagement now. Even though the Seiki musketeers are pretty good, pretty strong, have a decent amount of health for musketeers of their kind, and have a good range. They are not very... apparently they are superhumans, because they apparently just lifted the battle into the favor of Pepper all on their own. I'm not gonna lie, that's awesome. But apparently the back gate of Pepper is now going to be opened by some of Captain Marlborough's ground shears. Which Captain Marlborough's army is actually very far away from his ground shears. So they cannot even support him if they are getting shot at, which at this point I think is no real concern anymore. Since Pepper's army is mostly dead anyway. All he's got left is some Seiki musketeers and some of his light cavalrymen. Of course, there's also some Hashtu, but they are not going to do anything about these amounts of enemies anymore. The gate has been opened up, for there are more people flooding in from the front, from the middle straight, than from the back. Straight. And it appears like the people are trying to engage Pepper now. unsuccessful because the Seki musketeers had a superior range to the normal 17th musketeers of everybody else. Indeed, Michael. The team of Coswar won due to numerical superiority, and I think the Battle of Colorfit was also lost because Pepper did not send any real help there. He sent a small detachment of light cavalrymen, which was good, but he should have sent far more far earlier, in my opinion. This battle was a lost cause because Colorfit simply hasn't had the musketeers to shoot back, while the team of Coswar were 3 players at once, had by far enough firepower for this. And Pepper could have simply made more palisades or something like that to reinforce his rear guard, while his men are moving away from it to support Colorfit. It could have potentially worked out then. I'm not sure because they would have still been in numerical disadvantage. However, they would have somewhat have a choke point bonus because I just think that people are somehow performing better when the enemy cannot stretch out a lot. And that's it for this game. Team Coswar has won again. Well, yeah, again, what do I say? They have won. Because in the previous game, Colorfit has won. So yeah, this game has ended at this point. Colorfit is still hanging on somehow, with this little colony peasant. It'll take a while for the people to register that, I think. It'll take an even longer time till they get a port up and build a ferry to catch him. I wonder how long they will try to search for Colorfit's last peasant, until they notice that he is on the island. And Colorfit's little island peasant is now busy building a barrack. So I suppose that Colorfit is going for the costly pikeman here, because it's a very small island, there's not a lot of place for shooters here. So the costly can really be strong, because they can close in the distance with the musketeers really fast and murder them. And the musketeers cannot shoot back because the most musketeers, those that have no bayonet, don't have a melee attack. They simply turn around and go away when the enemy comes too close. And I think that's what Colorfit is counting on. And he should hurry making more coastal pikemen because Coswar is starting to make some shipyards there. At least he set the foundations. And apparently Colorfit is having some of his pikemen stuck into the ferry. I'm not sure he actually does he? No, he doesn't. I wouldn't have a clue why he would do that either. Apparently he is now stuffing them all into the ferry and burning down his house. So now this poor little peasant doesn't have a house anymore. And now Colorfit is turning around again and unloads his costly pikemen back on the island. Never mind, he's actually pulling in more. I think he might be trying to attack the shipyards that Coswar was trying to build. Now he's unloading. Would you please decide what to do, Collar? I'd almost think that he was going to attack the ports that Coswar was building. But it would be a suicide mission anyway, since Coswar's got a ton of hussars there, which are simply too fast and can close the distance as well. So the ferry pikemen are going to die like flies, while the hussars don't take any casualties at all. And Cos was rapidly building some of the ferries. I think that is actually that his actual strategy is going to be build a ton of ferries, load a ton of army on there, surround Kolofit's island with the ferries, and offload all at once. That way Kolofit cannot resist the army, because he simply cannot be everywhere at once. He could try though. He surely got the costly to surround the people that get offload and quickly stab them to death. However, if Coswar builds a ton of them though, it's not going to be very effective, even if it's all just mercenary grenadiers. And apparently Call of it just died for some reason. I don't know what happened. Because he still had one person on his island left. He should not have died. And Coswar states that he had a submarine and killed Call of it like that, with a torpedo, which a torpedo cannot actually attack things that are on land. But okay, I guess. So this is the game for now. I don't know if there's another game. It's pretty late actually, I think. It's okay. It depends. We'll see what happens. If nothing happens, you'll see. If something happens, I'll see in the next game. And at that, welcome back to the game. Now it's a 4 vs 4 between Colorfit, God, me, and Captain Marlboro versus Pepper, Chris, Coswar, and Rita and Winter. So, I think that it's a little bit unbalanced, but gotta make do with what you've got. Because I know that Pepper and Coswar are pretty good players. Chris got in the last game is pretty badly treated. He had the worst positions of all, kind of. But I think he is actually a pretty decent player. About Captain Marlboro, I'm not sure. I think he's pretty okay as well. Other than that, I think that I am intercepted by a river towards my allies. So I'm going to have a little bit of trouble sometime. Perhaps, I don't know. There might be some kind of strait. And Marlboro and Colorfit, better said, Colorfit already wants to rush again. That's the moment when you all notice that Colorfit is actually communist. Because Colorfit always wants to rush B. Unfortunately, there seems to be a strait over to Colorfit, so I'm not lost. Even though the strait is pretty complicated to walk over. And I doubt that Lord is going to help very too much. So I'm kind of on my own right now. I hope, however, that Colorfit and Captain Marlboro are really able to rush hard and kill people on the right side, so that I don't have to take as much of a beating. Because at the same time, I'm pretty much the shield of Colorfit's back. If I get destroyed, Colorfit get raped from behind. Actually, Lord is Switzerland and he's using the Swiss bike, so he might actually be useful. Even though he seems to rather want to support Colorfit and Captain Marlboro. That's not a big deal, I hope at least. Because the more men are pushing on the right flank, the faster it should potentially fall. And the faster it falls, the faster people can rush to my aid again. Whilst the people on the right flank are pretty much dead at the same time. So it might actually be an advantage for us if Lord actually helps Color and Captain Marlboro. And apparently Lord is not helping me. That's okay as well. And apparently Captain Marlborough has a problem. At least he writes my, and he doesn't say anything else. So I can only predict that he has some kind of problem right there. And it appears like Marlborough might actually have a problem for real, because apparently he is not moving with color fit. And apparently Lord is now getting a bunch of mercenary dragoons to help me out. However, I'm not going to rush as always. I'm going to take my time, get my upgrades, and then attack. I'm performing pretty bad this game though. I forgot my second mill upgrade. Should have gotten it 6 minutes earlier. And apparently people are moving in to attack me, and it appears like Lord is not prepared for this. I am prepared for this, however. I have a stand ground formation. The enemy is Russia, but my men are moving in. It's very intense. The Scottish line is at the moment holding. It appears like we are beating the Russian pikemen. And we have beaten them. And we are moving forward. In fact, I haven't lost a single musketeer in this pike attack. So that's pretty good for me. Considering how overpowered Russia is at least. However, Russia is used by the one player that's the worst player on the enemy team. At least as far as I can tell. I think he had the least wins. Of course, you cannot measure somebody at their wins, but most people with higher wins are usually pretty good players. And I'm using the classical strategy of penetrating my enemy from a little bit of a distance. So I have the battle advantages, and the enemy is moving in to engage me once more. And this time I'm actually going to back down, because Lord is not helping, and my army is numerically insuperior. Plus I don't have my second fire rate yet. Rendering my Scottish men at this moment rather useless, because they have such a high production time of 7 seconds, making them one of the longest to produce musketeers. The enemy has made an unwise decision to just push forward without any regrets, and lost some men against Lord, who also made a bad decision and pushed forward without any looking back as well. The right flank is currently pushing through Beppa though, means that we are going to have some more support quite soon. I've got my second rate of fire, and I'm going to attack rather soon. Just going to replenish my damaged formation, and then I'm ready to go. I should be able to meet up with the forces of Colorfit and Captain Marlborough just in time. The enemy is moving forward in the meantime, and I think they're actually going to engage me again. This time I have stand grounded armies though, means that they are going to have a bad time. Apparently they haven't learned from their first fail and ran into my stand grounded formation twice. I'm surprised, though it wasn't Coswar who actually charged my stand grounded men. Actually, Coswar is the one who plays Russia. I'm surprised he performed this bad. I mean, of course, in the first time I destroyed him with the stand ground formation. But for a Russia, this was, in my opinion, a rather weak performance. And Coswar has quit the game. Since Wepper is most likely dead as well, and Friedrich Wilhelm, not Friedrich Wilhelm, Friedhelm Winter has quit as well. That means that there's only pretty much Wepper and Chris left. And apparently Colorfit hasn't even noticed that he is Turkey, not Algeria. I suppose that's how good he is in geography. So yeah, education. I would rather take a high school course instead of English school then. Meanwhile, I'm just wiping up the rest of Beppa's men that are trying to hide out in a little bit of a fortress. My far superior Scottish men, however, are fairly able to crush this defense. And even though I've performed pretty bad with my economy this game, my stand grounded defenses might have actually saved the game for the team, since if they would have broken through, they could have simply gone around into Color, into Lord, into Captain Marlborough, whilst their armies were in the south. It's just an it's just a theoretical thing, though. I'm not sure if that would have actually happened. We won't notice. We won't see either because it didn't happen. And yeah, this game's over. We have won. Yeah. And I guess with this we are going to end the stream for today as well. It's pretty late, so we played quite a few games, so I hope you enjoyed it. You could leave a like or comment, and well, I'll see you next week. Enjoy the week. I hope it's not going to be as hot as it is over here, where you are. So yeah, enjoy the week. Do something nice. Stay cool, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.